Hi, Lauren.
Hi.
I'm Mr. Leonardo. I'm your school counselor. And I'm glad that we're finally having the opportunity to sit down and have a talk. There are some things that I'd like to go over with you, let you know about counseling before we move forward. Have you ever talked to your counselor before? Or? No. Okay. So, especially because it's new to you, you want to make sure that you understand confidentiality. Have you heard of that before?
Yeah.
What can you tell me about confidentiality?
I mean, what I know from it is maybe like from a doctor's office, where you have to sign something saying that they're going to keep everything they talk about in the room to themselves.
Yeah, and that's the same thing for counseling. We're going to make sure that everything that is talked about between you and me is confidential or private. In other words, we talk about confidentiality. Essentially, we're talking about privacy. Okay, and so there are some times in which, of course, where I won't be keeping things confidential, and those are pretty specific times. These are like exceptions to confidentiality would include if there was any indication to what we were talking about that there's any kind of abuse or neglect, then I would want to make sure that I'm getting the proper people involved, whether that's CPS or law enforcement and that sort of thing. Okay, and that's typically to keep people safe. All right. The other exception to confidentiality is when I believe that a student may be in danger of hurting themselves or hurting somebody else, right? We want to make sure, again, that we're keeping everybody safe. And so I would get whoever else needs to be involved to ensure safety. All right. Other than that, things will be kept confidential unless, of course, you and I make some sort of agreement that we should get somebody else involved. Maybe if we're talking about goal planning, for example, then and there's a support person in your life that we want to get involved on that goal, then you and I would talk about whether it was appropriate to get them involved and how we can get them involved. Okay? Okay. Having an understanding of confidentiality and moving forward, how have you been? What's going on?
Good.
Good.
Feel good.
Okay. Things are going good and you feel good?
Yeah.
All right. So tell me a little bit about, it appears, looking at attendance, that you're having some difficulty coming to school. You missed quite a few days of school. What can you tell me about that?
Just, I just don't feel good sometimes, so I don't come to school.
All right. Sometimes you don't feel good. Tell me, what do you mean by don't feel good?
Like ill. I feel ill. Yeah.
Could you tell me about the last time you were ill? What sort of things were going on?
I had a headache, so I stayed home to rest, to sleep.
All right. And when you stay home, you tell me about being at home. Who do you live with? You live with mom and dad?
I live with mom. My dad is currently not in the picture. He just left my mom.
Okay.
And I have two younger siblings.
How much younger?
One is 7 and one is 4.
All right.
So they're little.
They're little.
Mm-hmm.
Little brother, sister?
I have the second oldest is the brother, and then the youngest is my sister.
So brother and sister, 7 and 4.
Mm-hmm.
All right. And mom and dad just separated.
Yeah.
How long ago?
Just a couple months ago.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. So my dad left, and now it's just us with my mom.
All right. And what can you tell me about that? Like what do you know about their separation?
I don't know anything really. We just kind of up and left one day. So now mom's working double shifts, which has been really hard. So now she works 2 jobs, one in the afternoon when we're at school and one in the evening.
So mom's away a lot. She's working.
Mm-hmm.
And dad's, he's left for now.
Mm-hmm.
That's gotta be pretty confusing, pretty hard,
Yeah,
emotionally, I imagine.
yeah. I think especially for my younger siblings,
Mm.
I feel like I've had to just step up and be more responsible and just be strong for them.
Be strong for them.
Mm-hmm.
Tell me about that. Tell me about you being strong for your brother and sister.
I don't know. I just feel like the past couple of months just kind of took more responsibility on just helping my mom out because she's been. I can tell that she's upset and sad,
Mm-hmm.
and she's just working more just to make sure that we have food on the table. So I take care of them at night when she's gone during her shifts. Um, and so when I have my younger siblings by myself, I don't want to be upset or show them that anything is wrong. I just kind of do what my mom would do. Mm-hmm.
You sort of put up a wall and shield yourself from your
Yeah.
emotion. Block it out. Be strong, he said.
Yeah.
One thing I see I see already is a great deal of like empathy. Are you familiar with empathy?
A little bit.
Yeah. Like understanding, sort of emotional understanding. You seem very empathetic towards your mom's, how this whole situation has been really difficult for your mom.
Mm-hmm.
And one way you seem to be expressing your empathy is by trying to be as supportive as you can help out.
I don't want her to. I know she's already worried about paying bills and food.
Right.
So I don't want her to worry about other things that I can help with.
Right. Right. And so your 7-year-old sibling, I'm sure, is in second grade.
Mm-hmm.
And your 4-year-old sibling is she in preschool?
Preschool.
Okay. So the two of them are going to school or a program or something on the same days that you would be.
Yeah.
Okay. But as you said, it wasn't that you were at home taking care of your brother and sister during the difficulty of getting to school.
Yeah.
It seems to be these headaches.
Yeah. I mean, not really headaches.
Not really headaches.
No.
Okay.
I think I'm finding myself to be a little bit more tired and emotionally drained some days more than others.
Mm.
So I just tell my mom that I'm not feeling well when she comes home from school.
Okay. Yeah. That probably, I can imagine your mom feels put between a rock and a hard place there, and knowing that she probably wants you to be in school, but at the same time, there's a sense of obligation to you as well because you've been helping out so much.
Well, especially I think till they bring home good grades when I'm at school.
When you're at school, yeah, I noticed that things have changed a little bit recently since you've been missing school in terms of your grades as well. So I'm glad that you make that connection. Right? There's a real connection between being in school and doing well in school. And being as hardworking as you are, I'm sure that that's still pretty important to you.
Yeah.
Okay. There was something in space in my mind. There was something that you had just mentioned. That got my attention. And I left it. So it's not the headaches. It's being tired and overwhelmed. Right? When you have a lot going on, you're putting in a lot of extra work that wasn't previously part of your role.
Yeah.
Right? So it's understandable that you feel drawn out, you feel tired. Sometimes when people put up a barrier and don't allow themselves to feel their emotion, like stuffing. Right? You think of it like I have an emotion, I can't deny that. Right? You experience the emotion, but you don't allow yourself to experience the emotion at the time, so we just stuff it. You get what I'm saying? It's stuffing, right? There's this idea that, let me grab this real quick. Let's imagine for a minute that this bottle is sealed with the typical cola. Is that cola? Yeah. What kind of soda do you use?
Pepsi.
Pepsi. Okay. This is a Pepsi bottle. Okay. It's unopened, so it's pretty full, right? And so let's imagine that every time you feel the sadness, the confusion, the loneliness, the disappointment, right, that comes along with dad leaving suddenly and seeing mom going through so much. Let's imagine that when you feel that and you're around your siblings or your mom, you put up your wall, that you're sort of shaking this soda, right? Do you ever shaken a soda?
Yeah.
Right? I mean, you manage to set it down for a little while and it doesn't seem to bother much. But you go through that again and you shake it up again, right? And you're sort of building this pressure up inside it, right? And can you imagine what happens when you, now that you've experienced that sort of putting up that wall, not allowing yourself to feel that emotion, you're shaking yourself up emotionally inside, when you actually do allow yourself to feel that emotion? Do you imagine that's like taking the top off of that bottle? What happens when you take the top off of that bottle?
It spews out.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
Very, very hard to control, right? Just kind of overload of emotion, spraying over everything, kind of making a mess of things, right? That's similar to what we're doing when we're stuffing our emotions and not allowing ourselves to feel our feelings. Is we're compressing it down, building up this pressure, and then I feel like I have a time or a moment to sort of, or just get the better of me, let that emotion out. It's pretty overwhelming. What do you think about that? When you think about what you've been going through or the way you've been dealing with it, is that demonstration ring true for you at all? Or?
Yeah, I'm sure I would get to that point.
That's not where you're feeling when you're staying home from school, though.
No.
Okay.
I think I'm more tired and sad, and I think because I put it away so much from my siblings,
Mm-hmm.
sometimes I just need my own time.
Right. And so it's a different kind of speed, right?
Yeah.
It's a different kind of spewing. It's not an aggressive, like, It's
I mean,
not like anger, but it's like.
No. I mean, I could see it getting there, I'm sure.
It's
eventually,
spewing
but
all over your grades.
Yeah.
It's spewing all over your attendance. It's spewing all over the other sort of things that you're normally really well at keeping in order and doing good at.
And it makes it hard when nobody knows about it. My friends don't know. And, my mom has kept it quiet with her family.
Right.
So when you don't get to talk about it, it's pretty hard.
Yeah. So how is this for you today? Talking about it.
It was good. It was good.
I'm honored that we're just sitting down here getting to know each other, and you already feel comfortable and safe enough to to share this
Feels
secret
nice.
with me.
Feels good to get it off my chest.
Good. Yeah. Hopefully, getting it off your chest and like relieving yourself of some of that pressure, we might be able to start navigating through some of this stuff. At least for you, right? This is sort of life brings us many challenges, right? Some challenges that we have direct control over, and others that we just don't, right? Do you have any control over whether or not dad comes home and picks up where he left off?
Mm-hmm.
No, right? Do you have any control over how you handle his being gone? Or what you do about his being gone?
Yeah.
Right? And how you fulfill, the role of helping out, with mom and with family, but balancing, I'm sure you probably like to find a little better balance so things aren't affecting you so much. Let me ask you a really crazy question. It might seem kind of out there, but let's just see where it goes. Let's just see what happens. You willing?
Sure.
Okay. Let's imagine for a minute that you went to bed tonight. Everything was the same as it normally is. Here it has been. And you woke up the next morning, and before you woke up, overnight, let's just say this miracle happened, where when you woke up the next morning, you weren't bogged down, like you were describing. You weren't bogged down. You were ready to take on a day. You were ready to go to school because that's what you're used to doing. That's where you're supposed to be. That's what that's where you want to be. And so this sense of having too much weight, and too much sadness or tiredness going on is gone. What else would you imagine would be different in that scenario? Okay.
I don't get the question, I'm sorry.
If overnight a miracle happened,
Yeah.
you woke up the next day and you weren't troubled by these feelings of not wanting to go to school because you were too tired and too sad, but instead you were ready for the day.
Okay.
In order for that to have happened, what else do you think would have to be different? What else in your life could you imagine being different?
To feel that way?
Mm-hmm.
I don't know, probably just talking about what's going on and get things off my chest.
Mm-hmm.
Because they're not bothered with it.
Okay. So talking about things does seem to be freeing for you in a way.
Yeah, I don't want to talk about it with my mom.
Right, okay. So there's certain people obviously that
Yeah, I can already tell that she's stressed out.
and when mom is more stressed out, that kind of translates, you kind of take that in.
Yeah, I feel like when she's feeling overwhelmed or stressed out, going from job to job,
Right.
I feel like I have to be more stable and strong and composed.
Okay. And so talking with somebody neutral, let's just say, if talking with me today worked out for you, if you feel lighter for you, and maybe setting something up to talk with him, might be a good step to take. Okay. So talking about it.
Yeah.
Is there anything else?
Well, I haven't even got that.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And it's I think that's a practical response, right? And it's fits perfectly into what we're talking about, right? Because here, on one hand, you have a potential solution, or at least remedy, that you have absolute control over, right? Whether or not you talk about it. And a solution that you have, as we talked about earlier, no control over, right? And so, in situations like this, I think it's critical that we take advantage of the opportunities that we do have in terms of solution and effort to make change, because there are circumstances that we just can't control, right? Good. Well, we are just about out of time for our talk today. But I do want to give you opportunity to sort of reflect a little bit and tell me for a moment, what does all this mean to you? What do you leave here like having taken in from our time?
I think that it's okay to have feelings about certain situations and talk about them. And that I think it's okay to be strong on the outside for certain people, but it's also okay to be sort of vulnerable with others.
Yeah. Is there an importance? How important is the balance between those two?
Well, I don't know, extremely important, I guess. I mean, my first thought was, instead of having my mom call me out sick, those days that I'm feeling that maybe they can come here for an hour or something. And see if that helps with my attendance.
That'd be a great solution. I would, again, be honored to be part of your solution plan, for sure. I have an open door policy. Doesn't mean that every time a student walks into the office, they get to have an hour session, sit down with me. But without a doubt, I encourage students going through similar situations or any difficulty to pop in, check in regularly between sessions, let me know how things are going. And if we need to see each other more frequently, then we definitely can set something up to see each other more frequently. Okay? So why don't we go ahead and, it sounds like we want to set something up for, just later this week and kind of check in and see where things are at, how things are going. And we're trying to get something moving